All right, guys, welcome to session number 4 of our mark training series. I've got Teton again with me, and we're in the middle of the arena. So all I've done is I've moved my mark into the middle of the arena, and I've just simply walked him up on it and left him there. And so he did try to step off once, and I put him back on there, and so he's kind of licking and chewing and hanging out now. But I'm in the middle of our arena is 75 foot wide. So if you have a super wide arena, you wouldn't necessarily go from 2 to 3 feet off the wall to the dead center. You might go to the quarter line or to a third of the way in or to halfway in. So, you know, it's increments pieces. And so even from the 2 to 3 feet off the wall, you might go 10 to 15 feet off, and then 15 or 20 feet and 30 feet, 40 feet. And you know, eventually we'd love to be able to take our horses out into a big open paddock that still has a fence around it, so that when we're still training these pieces, there's something to catch our horses in case they do decide to leave, because there's one thing that's certain with Liberty horses is they will leave. The big thing is developing the tools to help them and the draw for them to come back and that connection with your horse. So now that we're in the middle of the arena here, what we're going to be working on today is the walk and the trot, changes of direction, and our horse is taking the mark again. So again, you need your lead rope, your halter, your horse, carriage whip or a driving whip, or a carriage whip, excuse me, or a lunge whip, and the mark itself. So I'm going to step back over here. I'm going to take Teton off the mark, and we're going to, so by this point, guys, your horses have been walked, maybe trotted a little bit, but now that we're in an open area, we want to work on the trot a bit more. So you guys know how to do the walk with your horses. It's good to warm up. If your horse gets nervous at some point, if they get really frantic, take the pressure down until they get relaxed a little bit, then go back up to the trot. We don't want this to be super anxiety, and certainly they have to work through some uncertainties and maybe a little bit of worry along the way, but don't make it worse by adding more pressure to something they're worried about or something that they're doing wrong. If you add pressure to something that they're doing wrong, they're going to do the wrong thing with more energy, and that's not going to do us any good. So guys, when you're going about doing this, I'm going to go ahead and ask him to step up to the trot, because that's going to help me with him. It's going to help us develop more draw to this, because there's more work to be done outside, and then it's a greater release when he gets to take the mark. So here, I'll ask him step around. I bumped him there. I started to raise that whip towards him, and if you haven't checked out the groundwork videos, you definitely need to, because you'll understand why I went ahead and bumped him right then. And so I'll cluck to him. There, he should move, and he did. And so I'll let him trot maybe 2 or 3 circles. And you can see how he carries this bend to the inside. Certainly the desire to want to be on the mark helps that. I'm not having to pull on him. He's staying super soft. And then I'm going to time it up to where he's going to move straight towards you guys. So here, I'm going to step back and let him take the mark. And at the end of the session 3, hopefully nobody jumped the gun here and they're watching session 4 without watching sessions 1, 2, 3, because nobody would do that. But him making that turn off of his circle and drawing towards the mark is super important, that he keeps the impulsion up and then maybe even speeds up a little bit when he knows that that resting place is on there. So here you can even see that he's just barely on the mark with his front left foot. He's on the mark. It's black and white, guys. Either their foot's off the mark or it's on the mark. Now, a couple of things can happen. He thought like he might pick up his front right and the mark might move because he's standing on the edge of it, or he could just step off. But we let our horses work through those things. So I might just walk away here, and I'm going to walk around. Hopefully I don't go off a frame. And I'm just going to kind of like let him, this is stuff that you guys could have already done with your horses. And you know, ideally, if the camera could keep eye on me, I'd go in there and grab a cup of coffee and come back and always keep an eye on him. And if he stepped off, then I would correct him for that. But right now, for the sake of this, we're going to stay close. We're going to keep doing the walk and the trot. So, but guys, 2 with your horses, do the trot, take a lap, leave your horses alone, let them rest, give them the chance to make the mistake. Because ideally, if they do make the mistake, and say I'm 50 feet away, don't run up to your horse from 50 feet away and try to add pressure then. Try to add, just maybe tap the ground or get their attention and add a little bit of pressure from where you are, because Liberty horses aren't going to have anything on them, and you want to be able to have enough communication with your horse that you can get them to do things from long distances away. So if we don't ever try to do things from long distances away and give our horses a chance to make those mistakes, we'll never be able to develop the connections from that far. So I'm going to lean down here again. Don't stick your head up underneath your horse's chin. And then I'm going to ask him to head off around me. This time I'm actually going to ask him to do probably 2 changes of direction. That's fine that he wants to go ahead and move. I like to cluck to them. If they don't move, then I might raise the whip a little bit. And then if they still didn't move, I might tap him. I'm going to take the whip underneath his chin and ask for a change of direction. So there he kind of bumped my hand with his nose because he got pretty close. But there he got pretty close. But we won't want to discourage them too much for getting super close, because we ultimately do want them to get pretty close. And here you'll notice if I lower the whip closer to the ground and kind of look down at his feet a little bit, he'll draw closer, versus if I raise this whip up, he might get wider. But then I'm going to take my whip underneath his chin. I kind of tapped him behind the shoulder because he started to go backwards. So I need his turns to have a bit of a forward momentum to them. Then I'll take the whip underneath. There's a little bit of impulsion that we've kind of been hinting to in the last few videos. And you can tell, I asked him to do a little bit more work out around me, and so that when I did give him the opportunity to take the mark, he was a little more readily about taking me up on that. So guys, that's really important. This is session 4 with your horses. The biggest factor I find between people that are going through the exercises and people that are really finding results with their horses is the amount of work that they're asking their horses to do around them. It's not necessarily that they have to go faster, but they need to put in more effort. And for every horse, that's a little bit different. If your horse is super lazy, they may not be doing a whole lot of work by our standards, but to them, they are trying their little tails off. That's good for them. Like, reward that. Make them go to that place and then give them the chance to relax. That will solidify their draw to this mark. And another thing that's really important is to move the mark. So we started with against the wall. We took it a little bit off the wall. Now we're in the middle of the arena. Even when I work with Teton on this, we would do this in different spots of the arena. We'd go outside to the paddock. We'd work in different environments. Those different experiences all have maybe different environments or different places in the same environment, but the one thing that stays constant is how I ask my horse to work and what I'm asking my horse to do. That is what really creates solid horses. It's just like showing horses. You wouldn't go to a horse show and change the way you do things, but rather you would take your horse to a schooling show or to an actual horse show or maybe to a friend's place and ride your horse just like you would at home. That's how you get your horses better. So it's the same thing with this mark training. And in the next section, guys, once this is going really solid, we'll be showing you guys how to teach your horse to actually run to the mark. And so we'll be bringing that to you guys very shortly, and be sure to stay tuned for that on how to teach your horses to then start going from one person letting your horse loose to them running to the mark and taking the mark. And again, you can imagine it's going to be a very similar process to what we've done here in introducing your horse to the mark. So thanks for tuning in, guys. Thanks for seeing session 4, and we'll talk to you guys soon.